that. So here we go. We're getting into game number 1 here between Aditya and Karl. Let me know in the chat if you were alive, if you were lurking. Let me get a number if you're lurking. Just one number. 1 if you're rooting for Aditya, a 2 if you're rocking for Karl. Here we go. Aditya has Aegislash, Tapu Fini, Salamence, Tyranitar, Amoonguss, and Zapdos, while Karl has Snorlax, Bronzong, Mawile, Politoed, Tapu Bulu, and Incineroar. Now, we are seeing a couple of very cool and unique Pokemon coming in from Karl. Karl, a very innovative player, but we're seeing more of the standard stuff coming in from Aditya. Very practiced, very tried and true Pokemon on all accounts. Aegislash, the king of the 50-50 right there. But speaking of steel types, we got plenty of steel types over on Karl's side. We got Bronzong and Mawile coming in. Fairy, Psychic types as well. To put on that, Bronzong known mostly for being able to set up Trick Room, things like Gyro Ball as well, being able to be pretty tanky. No fire type coverage unless that Zapdos is packing Heat Wave over an Aditya outside, so a lot of these steel types could provide a huge problem for them. So we shall see how that is going to work out for both these players. I think it's really going to come down to is the Mawile here in terms of being able to pick up the KO, because unless that Zapdos is packing Heat Wave, it's going to be incredibly difficult, especially through the Intimidate, for Adi to pick up the KO on that Mega Mawile, which I expect it to be, considering that is the only eligible Pokemon for a Mega Stone. So we're going to be seeing a lot of cool stuff here as well as we get into it. We are here, game number 1. Karl, one-on-one. So we're gonna see what these trainers decide to lead with. So Karl leading with Bronzong and Incineroar, Amoonguss and Aegislash on the side of Aditya. Okay, so we got a little bit of a good see. That Incineroar is going to be a huge problem for the man right here, for the man Aditya, but he does have access to things like a redirect. He has King of Shield. So, but overall, this is a pretty good lead here. If your name is Karl, that one fire type coverage is really paying off here. So let's go ahead so you guys can see what we're rocking with here. As I said, on the side, you will see all the Pokemon we're messing with here. So the Substitute's going to come in first here. And just the raw Flare Blitz going right to get rid of that sub immediately. Doing a little bit of chip damage, but not very much. The Hypnosis is going to come through onto the Amoonguss, going to put the boy to sleep. And the Amoonguss going to go down. Going to take a little cat nap right there. So now Karl's in a very good position here. He obviously did not go for the fake. He went straight for the raw Flare Blitz, which I think is a really good play. I mean, you don't really need the fake out here as well. You don't need that chip damage. You'd rather just go to pick up the KO, because if he redirects, you're picking up a good damage on the Amoonguss, if not the KO. And Aegislash, you're definitely pick up the KO with a Flare Blitz. So you're removing the options for Rage Powders, which is the biggest thing about this Amoonguss in this current state. So here we go. What is it? It is the Ghostium Z from Aegislash. Aegislash faster than both Pokemon on Karl's side. Fastest Pokemon on the field, which is pretty uncommon. You don't see that a lot. He's going to go ahead and pull out the sword and shield. Here we go, the never-ending nightmare. This is probably going into that Bronzong slot, and it is going to do an immense amount of damage to that Pokemon. Now, will it be able to pick up the KO? Yes, it will. And down goes Bronzong. But here we go. Will he be able to retaliate with a Flare Blitz? And he will. Going to do a 1-for-1 trade here. Oh no! I did way too soon. On the Amoonguss instead of the Aegislash, pocking the berry. But the Amoonguss is still asleep. I'm not going for the Aegislash there. Instead of going for the Amoonguss. So yeah, instead of going for the 1-for-1 trade, instead going for just a simple trade, trading the berry, getting damage off. So the second Pokemon coming in from, or excuse me, the third Pokemon coming in from Karl will be the Snorlax. So a 4-3 lead for Aditya at the moment. Now, unless he's packing Sacred Sword, which he might, but usually a lot of them are, if he's running Sabai, he's also running Flash Cannon for the Fairy coverage. He doesn't really have anything to really hit the Snorlax, in addition to the fact that the currently asleep Amoonguss is in play, but the substitute's going to come through, still the fastest Pokemon on the board. Flare Blitz going to come through once again onto the Amoonguss, picking up the KO, and the Amoonguss will go down. And the Belly Drum, a pretty safe and free Belly Drum for the big body. And the berry will proc 50% lost, 50% gained in trading that berry for a full boost in attack. That man is doing the max amount of damage that he possibly can do. Now this Incineroar still being able to flare blitz as it pleases. Although Aegislash is still the fastest thing on the board at the moment. And now the Tapu Fini will rear its ugly head. That's not that ugly, actually. Tapu Fini, old aerial out here. So now, for the first time this game so far, Incineroar is threatened offensively by Tapu Fini. Muddy Water, Moon Blast, things like that. Want to be able to pick up the KO from that range. Really interesting turn here, actually. Pivoting, I think definitely is going to need some defensive options from Karl going to need to be made, but he has a full maxed out Snorlax ready to do some damage. It's something that you need to deal with. So, but unless Aegis has a Sacred Sword, it's going to be very hard. And the trick. Wow. And he does have Sacred Sword. He's actually going to go ahead and pick up the KO right there. Wow, he actually so showing trick. Very interesting right there. But the return max going to pick up the KO. So another 1-for-1 trade. And the Incineroar will also go down, and the Salamence, the AC 130 going to show up, as well as the Mawile. Now this could be a problem for Aditya, and I see that, and it's with that typing specifically, I had a problem. I had a feeling the Mawile was going to rear its mouth, only because there's not a lot of type coverage unless one of these Pokemon is packing a fire type or ground type move, which I don't think that Salamence normally is bringing to the table at this point in the metagame. So it's going to be incredibly difficult for Aditya to deal enough damage to pick up the KO on either of these Pokemon, but we'll see if he has what he needs. So here we go, Mega Evolution. So actually, Mawile is going to go first. Okay. And the Salamence will actually simply not even Mega Evolve. He was just going to Protect here. Not even going for the Mega Evolution. Protect as well. And the Shadow Ball going to go straight into that. Not going to do anything. And the return onto the Salamence also not going to do anything. So pretty neutral turn. All you're really doing is getting the Mega Evolution out. Now Salamence has the ability to Mega Evolve himself. If Aditya wants to go ahead and do that, I mean, why not get that boost in stats, especially offensively? But then you get the Aerialate, which, you know, at this point, it's not really going to make a difference. You do want that boost, so he will go ahead to convert to the AC 130, tuck in the arms, and the stance change going to come through to the King Shield behind the sub. Be gone. So actually going for the double protect here and actually being able to get it. So the Earthquake. Wow, Karl going for the double protect, understanding that Earthquake could have been a possibility. Now, a lot of Salamence, from what I've seen, aren't necessarily packing Earthquake as often, but this Salamence is Karl just making sure. Good stuff by him. Going for the double protect and actually paying off. Is going to be able to pick up the KO on the Salamence. Karl with an amazing play right there. I'm really, really impressed with that. I don't know if he knew that, or he suspected that Earthquake could have been an option. But going for that protect, not only to get the scouting and get the information, but being able to go ahead and get the KO on the Salamence. Now, this Aegislash doesn't really have anything to deal enough damage on either of these Pokemon. It does have Sacred Sword, which is its, its saving grace. It is faster than both of those Pokemon, so it switches over to the Blade form. Gonna go ahead and go for the Shadow Ball. Let's see how much damage this is going to end up doing. Going to do about 65% or so. And the Iron Head, not going to do much. Might not even proc the Substitute. Oh, okay, so it will. Now, if this thing has high horsepower, it does not have high horsepower. It has return. Interesting. Interesting. So going for the stance change here. Back into the defense. If this Snorlax does not have a move that's not normal type, this may or may not be a problem. The King's Shield going to go ahead and drop the attack of Mawile by 2. And really interesting. Does Karl not have a move that's not normal type? This could be a huge problem for Karl. He doesn't have any way to do damage to that Snorlax. So really it comes down to this Mawile. What does he intend to do here? What is the game plan? But he's actually just going to go ahead and forfeit. Wow. Aditya. Late game with game number 1 with the win. Karl, understanding that he really had no way to do damage to the Aegislash in the late game should it come to that point. Wow. Okay, Karl. Unfortunately, not having the type coverage necessary. The win con was absolutely that Incineroar to pick up the KO. He unfortunately was not able to capitalize on the opportunity that he had earlier in the game. And Aditya was able to pick up the victory there from a forfeit because he essentially just understood that there was no way at that percent he was able to pick up the KO, especially with the fact that that Aegislash had so much type coverage and was faster. And Snorlax really honestly could not do anything. It looks like he's not rocking the high horsepower or knockoff or anything like that. He's not rocking any other move that would allow it to go ahead and hit that Aegislash. Wow. Okay. So now we understand the kind of game that we are playing. So now, Karl trying to regroup here. I don't know how I feel about the Politoed. I actually think the Politoed might be a good bring instead of the Bronzong. Get that rain out there. Just a little bit more protection. Allows you to really, especially if it's rocking Ice Beam or Icy Wind, if he decides to bring Tyranitar this game, which I don't expect him deciding to bring Tyranitar this game, but he might. So we shall see. Game number 2. Aditya with the game 1 victory. So, Aegislash and Amoonguss and Snorlax and Bronzong are the Pokemon that are being let out right now. He's actually decided to lead with the Aegislash this game. as well as the Amoonguss. Now, here's the thing. The Incineroar, most likely, it has to be in the back. That is a mandatory bring to this battle specifically. Because of the fact that Snorlax doesn't have any other way to deal with the H-Slash. So you want that ability to do that late game. So, and there is the Incineroar. He's going to go ahead and set up the substitute, hide behind that substitute. Ooh, and the Spore, going to put that man to sleep. So that may or may not be a problem. Well, actually, that's a big problem now because we already know this H-Slash is faster than the Incineroar. Even though it does have Fake Out, Incineroar will take a huge amount of damage from the Sacred Sword. And doing about 35% with that return. No investment, no boost from the Snorlax. Just a raw return right there. So the stance change comes out. Really safe here, especially since you know you're faster. Especially since you know that you have Sacred Sword. Going to be able to pick up big damage on the Incineroar. Obviously focusing that Pokemon right there. Doing about a clean 50% or so. Maybe a little bit more. And that is going to be one sleepy kitty. High horsepower. He had it the whole time. He had it the whole time. Okay. I'm very confused. I'm very confused. About why, if he had horsepower, why didn't he just play out the last game? And just keep clicking high horsepower. I'm very confused. I mean, either way, that's neither here nor there. So here we go. Here's the switch to the Salamence. And there is another Sacred Sword. Going to go ahead and pick up the KO onto the Incineroar. And the Amoonguss has absolutely, pulled its share of the weight, putting both Pokemon to sleep right here. And the Incineroar will indeed go down. And there is the Politoed. As I was expecting the Politoed to come in this game, I actually expected him to lead with it, but instead elected to not do so. Just bringing it in the back, possibly waiting a Tyranitar lead, which I can't blame him for. But instead of going Tyranitar, he decided to lead into the Amoonguss. So because the Snorlax does have higher horsepower, now that we know that, and the H-Slash is probably pretty frail in the sense where it's probably going to be built very offensively, given the fact that it is faster than the Incineroar. You can assume that. And the amount of damage that it is doing about 50%. So the Salamon's going to come back, clear that Intimidate out. The Tapu Fini going to come in as the last Pokemon for Aditya. And there is the King Shield, switching out the for the Shield form to give it a huge increase in stats. And here's the Scald, and once again the Snorlax will not wake up this turn. Unfortunate for Karl, but Finny does get a free switch in here. Let's see what they're going to choose to do here. I mean, the Politoed is pretty safe here as well. So you can actually feel free to click Scald again in the rain. It's going to do a lot of damage to the Aegislash. I think the Aegislash is the biggest threat at the moment. The Finny's not going to really do much to Snorlax. I would honestly wouldn't be surprised if Snorlax decided to just click either return or belly drum, but he's actually going to go ahead and protect on the Politoed here. And the trick, once again, oh, I'm stupid. He only could use return because he switched over to the choice specs. That's so smart. I can't believe I missed that. I can't believe I missed that because the text flew by so fast. Because they're just like mashing. Wow. I can't believe I missed that. Okay. So I'm not confused anymore. So he's gonna go ahead and live that. So because of the trick, it flew right over my head. So trick gonna go ahead and switch those items out. So now Snorlax has the choice specs, which basically is useless. And Tapu Fini going to have the berry here. Oh, I feel like a little bit of a noob. Trick a very uncommon move though, so the text just flew by. But now we know. So Aditya actually using the trick to kind of neutralize the Snorlax right here. That one move puts Snorlax in a very weird position where it has to basically, if I was him, I would just lock into high horsepower. Because you do have other ways to get rid of the Salamence with this, assuming that this Politoed is going to be able to live here. It's going to go ahead and use the Scald right now. Going to do okay damage in the rain, not getting the burn, however. And there he is. There's the wake up, and yep, he's going to lock himself into the high horsepower, which I think is the play. You do have other ways to deal with the Salamence, but you just don't want to lose to that straight immunity that you have been receiving. You have Ice Beam on Politoed, I'm assuming. So you do have ways to deal with it if it should get to that point. But the Moon Blast is going to come through. Probably on, yep, they're going to double up on that Politoed. Understanding the Snorlax is not much of a threat as long as it has that choice specs on it. And the berry is going to proc. And the Ice Beam going to come through. So it does reveal Ice Beam. And the high horsepower, let's see if it's going to be able to pick up the KO here. No, it is -1, I believe, because of the Salamence. And the berry from the Wiki Berry going to go ahead and bring it in. And actually, because of the Misty Terrain, Aditya a little forgetting about the Misty Terrain, using that Spore right there, and not going straight for the Giga Drain. If he has it, you can just kind of, it's okay. So Amoonguss going to go ahead and protect here. That's fine. You can't afford to bring in either of those other Pokemon. He's just going to go ahead and focus the Politoed down because understanding the Politoed is the offensive threat here. I would actually really like a switch back into the Bronzong on the Politoed slot now. Just I don't know what the, I mean, assuming it has like Trick Room, like something else. I don't know. The older Pokemon are slower. Karl's in a really weird position right now because his Snorlax is essentially useless now because of the trick, which I'm still mad at myself for like completely, that flying completely over my head. But here is the Moon Blast going to do a decent amount of damage. Will it be enough to pick up the KO? And it will. Karl's Politoed going down. And the high horsepower going to do minimal damage. And the Spore essentially going to secure the game for Aditya here. But not over yet. Definitely not over yet. This is Pokemon. Anything can happen. But Aditya in a very strong position because of the use of that trick. Switching the items. Having that option. So Tapu Fini is just another one of those multiple moves that Fini has gotten over time that allows it to really become one of the most versatile Pokemon in the metagame. And there is the Scald right there. Not going to do much damage, but thankfully not getting the burn. I mean, at this point it's pretty... Okay, so the Hypnosis is going to come through. Once again, putting Amoonguss to sleep like it did in game numero uno. And the Amoonguss going to go down with a case of the snoozes. It's just so unfortunate. The Snorlax is essentially not even really here. because of the trick. And the Scald, single target damage. Going to try and do as much damage to the Bronzong as I can. No burn. And here is the Wake Up. Another high horsepower onto Amoonguss. And here is this Psychium Z. On the Bronzong even. Now the question is, will this be able to do enough? Oh, okay. The Z Trick Room. So, Trick Room is up. Now, what only weird thing about this is that Amoonguss is the slowest thing on the board. So, Tapu Fini is going to go ring and bring in the Salamence, try to mitigate as much damage from the Snorlax as possible. Snorlax doing a, let's be honest, an inconsequential amount of damage. And Amoonguss is going to go ahead and wake up and use the Spore at the exact wrong turn for Karl. And he is stuck into that high horsepower. Well, he's hitting him at least. Not going to do anything right there. Only doing 20 damage. And like I said, an inconsequential amount of damage to be frank. And you could go ahead and switch out that Amoonguss if you wanted for the Finny. Just to really secure this game and lock this game up. Well, there is the Mega Evolution. And the Spore, once again, putting Snorlax back to sleep. Aditya has done an amazing job of neutralizing the Snorlax threat from Karl the entirety of the set. Using again the trick as well as the Spore, using the return here to do some okay damage. Another one of those and he'll be able to pick up the KO as well. He actually might want to go for the Hyper Voice if he has it, just to start getting damage off on the Snorlax. But it looks like Aditya is going to be able to pick up this game fairly cleanly with really good play and really innovative choices and moves. That trick even threw me up for a loop because I completely, like, the text went by so fast I didn't even really see it. Oh, well, there's the bell real quick, and the Hypnosis actually gonna go ahead and go into the Salamence, so we have a little bit of signs of life here. Unfortunately for the Snorlax, it is irrelevant when it comes to not only type, the move that it's using. It's not getting stabbed from it, but it is -2 on the Snorlax with no way of either recycling the berry or boosting its damage. It's in a really tough spot with just the one move from this Finny, and this Finny actually gets a free berry out of it. So here comes the switch over to the Aegislash. The Gyro Ball. Not going to do much damage. Great switch in by Aditya. And the Scald. Going to pick up the KO onto the Bronzong. And the Bronzong will indeed go down and essentially sealing up the game, especially now that the Twisted Dimensions have returned to normal. The Trick Room has ended. So now it's just the formality of trying to press these buttons real quick. Sacred Sword, Moon Blast, or Skull, depending on what you want to do. But he actually elected to go ahead and switch back to the Salamence. Really safe, securing the play here. He's actually going for the high horsepower onto the top of Finny, so getting some okay chip damage off. Not going to be taking any more reductions because of that Mega Evolution, going to get rid of that Intimidate ability. However, Alvin looks in dire straits at the moment. going to come through once again, doing a lot more damage than normal. Oh, and with the critical hit, the high horsepower going to come through and retaliate. Here is the final attack, the return going to come through. Karl going down. The Snorlax putting a valiant effort from what it could do. However, Aditya with the victory here. Really smart, innovative play, really allowing to secure the game really early on. With the use of that trick. So the use of that trick really allowed him to really neutralize that Snorlax, or kind of get rid of it, pivot around it, not even really have to deal with it as a damage threat. So good stuff to him. Aditya going to continue on with with undefeated streak. So guaranteeing top 8 here at the MSS. He just needs to, Karl just needs to win one more game, needs to win his last round, round 5, to guarantee top 8 as well. So he's definitely not out of it yet. He has a little bit of cushion with the advantage of being undefeated up until this point. And yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching so far.